Yeah, so what a race. This is a different race from Australia in which Max Verstappen was out because of a problem. But this time, it is a full race. As we're marching down the formation lap, my mind is telling me Max Verstappen will not win this race. I don't know how it will happen, but my mind just told me we will win the race and the next race. The rundown. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc was unable to catch up with Max Verstappen on the turn 1. While Checo Perez, racing like a raging bull, nearly took all the teams out, but he made a mistake, locked up, went out, and Max Verstappen kept on leading. I said it about 2 weeks ago that the Red Bull has not developed, even with the upgrades they brought in Japan. They've not moved forward. But I had some comments and I had people coming to tell me, oh no, nobody can catch them this season. I know it to be difficult for anybody to beat the Red Bull this season, but they have not developed, they have not moved forward. And that was their fear when they changed the concept, because they knew everybody would be coming their old concept. That was why they changed the concept to this new concept. I'll make a video to analyze the Red Bull car for you so you can know what I'm saying, because a lot of people don't understand and they will still criticize me. Hey, but like I always say, we are a small community here, we're a small channel, but we look at data, we look at everything to tell you what is going to happen and what is happening. Yesterday I said to be a very close race between Red Bull and Ferrari, because I knew McLaren had the pace, but what happened to them all through the weekend, they were up and down. They were really showing that they won't really progress forward, but they came with a surprise because they have a good race pace, they have a good race car, and the drivers came on point today. Piastri was able to nick in, create a third position for himself, and was racing down Charles Leclerc. Racing him down, he was able to overtake Charles Leclerc, and we got a race in our hand. Trying for him to undown Red Bull of Max Verstappen, he was unable to keep close because he was fighting Charles Leclerc for over 10-15 laps. So he was unable to concentrate and race the person ahead of him, that's Max Verstappen. But looking at this race and the last race in China, you see that the position in the gap that the Red Bull are having against other teams from beginning of season or last year has waned. People are not seeing this. It has waned in China. Yeah, we can say, oh, because it rained. But drastically, there was no rain in Miami. It waned totally. Yeah, we can say there was heat that affected all the teams, the track temperature, this and that. But sincerely, McLaren brought 10 upgrades and all the upgrades work. They had about 5 of the upgrades on Oscar Piastri's car and 10 full upgrades on Lando Norris cars. The Mercedes were fast today. In the hands of Lewis Hamilton, they made setup changes again. He said they won't make any setup change. They made setup changes again, but it was fast in the hands of Lewis Hamilton. And I can tell you today, the Mercedes were the second fastest car on track in the hands of Lewis Hamilton. When he was on hard tires, he was fast. Though he struggled in the first stint of the race, but around the 10 laps, he was consistent. In the second stint of the race, he was faster. He was faster than the Red Bull. He was closing down on Perez. Perez was only able to edge him out on the straight line with battery to keep him behind. But looking at it, these guys are getting close. The Ferrari have not brought any upgrade, yet they are close. The Red Bull of Max Verstappen, in 22 laps to 25 laps, he was just about 3 seconds and 5/10 ahead of Piastri that was still battling Leclerc behind him, the Ferrari. It shows they've not really progressed, like I said. They came up with they are having problem turning the steering, this and that. Yes, Miami is a track that is very difficult to overtake. But this race shows us how these cars have moved forward and how races can be won by other teams if they really bring upgrades and are able to work out with it. Now, sincerely, McLaren have not fulfilled the potential of their upgrade. This is just the upgrade and they've ran. And they're bringing more upgrades in Imola. From what they said, they brought some few upgrades. And now they're even rushing to bring more upgrades. They want to pump out upgrades and start putting Red Bull under pressure. And that is what Ferrari will do next. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful rest of the season. And there will still be breakthroughs and so many news from teams about driver swap, drivers signing, team members leaving for another team. There will still be those news, but it's going to be a great season, certainly. So, Max Verstappen leading the race for some time, and he had to pit. Lewis Hamilton came out on hard tire to start his first team. Himself, Alonso, Daniel Ricciardo, and one other person. While Bottas started on soft tires, but others started on medium tires. Now, the medium tires seems to be the fastest tire, which is truly the fastest tire on the track. But the Ferrari gave it their hands on. They really pushed the Red Bull and the McLaren, though they've not brought upgrade, they are some few tenths slower. They really pushed their hands on with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, trying to make sure they close in the gap, push themselves close in the gap. Now, after the first stint of tire changes, Lando Norris was in free here. He was leading the race at this point in time, was to put some decent laps of about 30 laps into a tire that they said will last 18 laps. That's the medium tire. And certainly for him, he was able to get a safety car that would help him box, change tire, and still be in the first position. Now, maintaining the first position is very critical critical for him. Now, we all know the McLaren has pace. I know the McLaren has pace, but how can he hold off Max Verstappen? And he did the perfect job. He was able to hold him off on the first lap, and by second lap, he had already created over a second space between them, which was massive for him. So Max Verstappen started battling Charles Leclerc behind him. That was another race for him because he was struggling. He was on fresh tires, but 6 laps, 2 of the laps were on race pace. The remaining were behind the safety car. So it was a different thing entirely for him, but the struggle was real. The pressure was real on the Red Bull. But with Lando Norris being able to nick the first lap out, he just kept on churning laps, and that is where the difference comes in. Lando Norris, in the last stint, in about 27 laps, he was able to create a 7.8 seconds gap. 7.8 seconds gap between himself and Max Verstappen, while in 22 seconds, Max Verstappen was only able to create 3.4 second gap between himself and Charles Leclerc. Now, you start understanding that they've not moved forward. Not that they are struggling. They took the pole position in both the sprint and this race. Their race pace has been on point since the beginning of the season. Now, here they are, laps behind an upgraded car. Yes, they will be coming to Imola trying to look for the solution, find what really happened. But I can tell you, if this McLaren team are bringing more upgrades and Ferrari are bringing upgrades, the Red Bull will be right behind these two teams, or they will be on par, in which I can tell you, with pressure on Red Bull will start falling apart. They will win some this season, they might fall apart totally, and that might trigger a lot of people leaving the team more, because they are going to leave. Certainly some people are going to leave. We are hearing news of Jonathan Whitley about leaving and some other team members, but Chris Horner is still saying no, it's not happening because we've seen them, they are good people, they are this, but that. But certainly it looks like it's going to happen. But if they keep losing races after this race, because I don't see any way in which McLaren and Ferrari will allow what happened to them in Australia happen again, because immediately after Max Verstappen lost the Australia race, he came back in Japan to mash everybody apart. But this time they are coming with upgrades and they already know what is happening. They are seeing the weaknesses. There's nothing that they can do with their car now. They'll bring upgrades, but it may not be as fast as they think it should be, because the upgrades they are bringing to this car will only give them 10th. Now with Andrea Newey leaving, though he's still in the paddock, I'm not sure he will be able to give them any ideas, because they've said he didn't design the car, he only designed the suspension. And Andrea Newey has been looking at the McLaren and the Ferrari. He looked at it all through the weekend because he knew something is right with those cars, and if they bring the right upgrades, they will work their car out. The only thing he was able to design was the suspension for 2023 and 2024 car, but he knows what is wrong with their car, and I'm sure he won't tell them because he has nothing to share. But he knows that if remaining cars are well upgraded, they will win. So what will happen to Max Verstappen? Though he came second, Charles Leclerc came third, Lando Norris won the race comfortably without pressure. Even he had cruised on the last lap, he will still win the race. What would Max Verstappen do now in his meeting with Mercedes? Because we heard Mercedes are going to be having meetings with him after the Miami, and they might be discussing him moving to Mercedes. Will he look at this race and say, wow, I can see clearly that the team is going to regress and there's no hope for 2026 with this man gone? Will he leave Red Bull to Mercedes? And also knowing a lot of their employees are already letters out to other teams that they want to come in. How would this loss affect Red Bull in subsequent races? I can tell you it is real and it is going to affect them. And when we come to Emilia Romagna in Imola, and the same thing happened, and like I said, I don't see Red Bull winning, except Perez would win. But I don't see Red Bull winning in Imola. It's a race between Ferrari and McLaren already. I already said it. That was what my mind told me from the beginning of this race. And how would they be able to manage themselves? How would the team be able to knit themselves together, sew themselves together, and see a way forward on this car? Because I don't see a way forward on this presenter RB20 that will give them the 510 to 610 they need to move ahead of this team. I can only see them bringing upgrades that will give them 1 to 2 tenths, somewhere around those points. But I can tell you, other teams will bring upgrades that will close the gap, especially Ferrari and McLaren. They will bring upgrades that will close the gap, and close the gap so well to the Red Bull. And possibly by the middle of the season, we will see the baton change and this team keeps winning. And it might be a very, very good race from the middle of the season to the end of the season, because if there are exchange of beatings and tight races, Red Bull being put under pressure, there will be a very whole lot of mistakes they will be making in strategy and in races, and I think it will weigh them down, it will weigh them down, and that might change what will happen in 2025, because whatever the Red Bull are bringing in 2025 could still be an evolution of RB20. I don't see them giving us an evolution of RB19, except they want to go back. But if they're giving us an evolution of RB20, well, what else do they need to upgrade in that car? I can tell you the best thing they need to bring for the RB20B or 21B, if that will come up, is a new floor and a new rear in which they need to revise and work out well. But who is the master of the rear? Andrea Newey. Andrea Newey has left Red Bull. I don't know how they will do it, but I can tell you they've not really collapsed. They have not really failed. They are still in contention for the win of Drivers' Championship and Constructors' Championship, but it is it's going to be a wild season for them, because it's going to wear them out as these teams are bringing upgrades and are getting themselves better and better by the races. Congratulations to Lando Norris, 16 podiums, first win in F1 in 5 years for him. He had been close to wins like 2 or 3 times. There was a point in time that he could have won 3 consecutive Grand Prix together, but due to his own mistakes and the team's mistake in some races, he lost out. But congratulations to him on winning the Miami Grand Prix, and congratulations to McLaren, Zach Brown, and Andre Stella for putting on a show today and making sure they were able to stay steady and give their driver a winning car. More success to McLaren in the future races, and especially in 2025 and the future races in 2024. But like I said, there are going to be tight races coming up from now on, especially from the middle of the season. It's going to be fun. Please, you can't afford to miss our analysis. Also, bad luck for Logan Sargent. He was taken out in the race, and that was why the safety car came in. And also bad luck for Oscar Piastri after his collision with Carlos Sainz. But it was a great race for him, though he lost out on points. He later had the fastest car on the track, matching faster time lapse than his teammate Lando Norris, and that was great to see on the McLaren that they have a very fast car. And just some tweaks in Imola, because this is the first race their upgrade is racing. Just some tweaks, they will get better in qualifying, and in race pace they have the best race pace presently on the grid. And to Kevin Magnussen, all through the weekend it has been a very difficult race for Kevin Magnussen. He had been given penalties, and he got some penalties more today. And to George Russell, he bemoaned after the race that the car was not okay, this, that. I think these are things he should have been saying since to the team so that they can improve. But when one driver is saying a negative feedback in which is right to the team, and the other one is giving a feedback that is not really moving the team forward, this is what will happen. I think now that he's speaking out, it will help the team to develop forward. It was a bad race for him. He was unable to move forward so well than he wanted. He ended the race in 8th position. But if he was on the same race par with his teammate Lewis Hamilton, he could have done a good job, a better job, could have been on par with Lewis Hamilton, and could have had a very delightful race. But unfortunately, he was not on the same par, because Lewis Hamilton made some setup adjustments for the race, and it gave him a good racing today. And Lewis Hamilton was in the second stint was close to overtaking Sergio Perez, and that shows how far the little upgrades they brought could have developed if they bring more upgrades and they can know their problem on the car. Now they are faster in the fast speed corner, also the slope speed corners. The Mercedes looks better, but on the straight lines the Mercedes are nowhere. They are nowhere, and that's a result of the floor. And like I said, they need to bring the right floor. They've not brought floor, they only upgraded their floor. They need to bring a new floor, totally new floor, and the rear end, especially the suspension on the rear, tweak some things. If they bring that, I think they'll be closer. But will they win a race? I've said it, I don't see Mercedes winning a race this season, except they are so lucky. But they can be closer. If the upgrades are very well good, they can also run closer to the Red Bull, and maybe giving Red Bull much more pressure like McLaren and Ferrari are going to be giving them in the next few races. Great race for Bottas, Nico Hulkenberg. Tsunoda had a great race. He gave it all, and it shows that the upgrade on the V car is working. The upgrade on the Alpine is working, because Alpine has shredded down their weight. They are the weightiest car on track, but now they are on par with the regulation weight, and they need to bring more development to make their car faster. But that has pushed them forward, with Esteban Ocon being able to get 1 point, and that's their first point this season. With more upgrades, I know they'll be better. And Fernando Alonso, great race coming from 15th to end the race night. It was so aggressive, especially with Nico Hulkenberg with the ass, and with Yuki Tsunoda, he gave it a good race. He raced his ass out. Great race for Charles Leclerc, coming third, though started second, but it shows where they really are without upgrades. Though they are close, they've been tuning and setting up and learning more, but it shows where they really are with the car. And with upgrades coming in Imola, that should set them up better for a greater race this season. And to Carlos Sainz, his teammate, great race, ended the race 4th. Sergio Perez ended 5th. Lewis Hamilton 6th. Beautiful race for him. George Russell 8th. And congratulations to everybody in the race today, and congratulations to Red Bull and Max Verstappen for coming second also. They gave us the opportunity to witness a new person winning the race this season. That would be nice, seeing more competitions and competitive cars in the next races. Thank you guys. I love you. Watch out for our next videos. We are going to have videos in which we analyze how McLaren were able to win, how the upgrades really worked on the cars that brought upgrades, and what happened to Red Bull in Miami. I will be able to give you a video or to explain what really happened to Red Bull all through the race, and also the Andre Newey role in development of Red Bull or in success of Red Bull. I'll be able to give you that video. Watch out for all those videos. I love you guys. Bye. Thanks. Chi.